There's a particular kind of loneliness that doesn't come from being alone. It comes from standing right at the edge of connection, close enough to feel its warmth, and then, almost without thinking, stepping back. Pulling away. Creating distance where there was none. If you've ever found yourself doing this, if you've ever watched a relationship quietly unravel at your own hands and felt helpless to stop it, this is for you. Because what looks like coldness from the outside is almost never coldness at all. It's protection. And understanding where that protection comes from might be the most important thing you ever do for yourself. People who push others away when things get close aren't broken. They aren't incapable of love. In most cases, they are people who loved deeply once or wanted to and learned, through painful experience, that closeness comes with a cost. Maybe that lesson came early. Maybe it came from a parent who was emotionally unpredictable, warm one moment, distant or critical the next. When a child grows up in that kind of environment, their nervous system learns something specific: connection is not safe. People who are supposed to stay, leave. People who say they love you can also be the source of your deepest hurt. And so the mind, in its extraordinary effort to protect you, begins building walls. Not out of cruelty. Out of survival. Psychologists call this pattern anxious avoidant attachment, or sometimes dismissive avoidant attachment, depending on how it manifests. But the lived experience is the same. You crave closeness, genuinely, achingly, while simultaneously fearing it. The moment someone starts to matter, something shifts. A quiet alarm goes off somewhere beneath conscious thought. And suddenly, the very thing you wanted becomes the thing you need to escape from. You find reasons to pull back. You become critical of the other person in ways you weren't before. You get busy. You go cold. You start arguments over things that don't really matter. You tell yourself you just need space, and you do, but the space is never quite enough, because the real discomfort isn't about proximity. It's about vulnerability. This is worth sitting with for a moment, because it's one of the most misunderstood dynamics in human relationships. Pushing someone away is not indifference. It is, in a deeply counterintuitive way, evidence of how much that person matters. The closer someone gets, the more power they have to hurt you. And if your early experiences taught you that people with that kind of power will eventually use it, through abandonment, through criticism, through betrayal, then distance becomes your most reliable defense. You don't let people get close enough to leave. You leave first. Or you make it uncomfortable enough that they pull away, and then you can tell yourself the story you already believed, that people don't stay. In everyday life, this pattern is both subtle and devastating. It shows up in the way someone can be deeply warm and engaging in the early stages of a relationship, when things feel light and uncommitted, and then begin to withdraw the moment the relationship starts to deepen. It shows up in the person who is endlessly available to others in crisis but cannot accept support when they themselves are struggling. It shows up in the habit of keeping conversations surface level, of deflecting with humor when things get emotionally real, of being physically present but emotionally somewhere else. It shows up in the person who has a long list of almost relationships, connections that got close but never quite became something, and who quietly wonders why they can never seem to make anything last. What makes this pattern particularly painful is the shame that wraps around it. Most people who push others away are aware, on some level, that they're doing it. They watch themselves withdraw from people they genuinely care about and feel a frustration they can't fully explain. They want to be different. They want to let people in. But wanting isn't enough when the behavior is rooted not in a decision, but in a deep nervous system response, a body-level alarm that was installed long before they had the language or the awareness to question it. And so they cycle. Get close. Pull back. Feel guilty. Try again. Pull back again. And slowly, over time, begin to believe that intimacy simply isn't something they're capable of. But here is what psychology tells us, and what is so important to hear: this is a learned response. Which means it is not permanent. The brain is not fixed. The patterns we develop in childhood to survive our environment are not life sentences. They are adaptations, and adaptations, by their nature, can change when the environment changes and when we bring conscious awareness to what we are doing and why. The first step is recognizing the moment. Not after the fact, when you've already created the distance and you're standing in the familiar, hollow relief of having pushed someone away, but in the moment when the urge to pull back first arrives. What does it feel like in your body? Where does it live? For many people, it's a tightening in the chest, a sudden restlessness, an inexplicable irritability toward the very person they care about most. Learning to recognize that sensation is fear, not as evidence that something is wrong with the relationship, is transformative. Because once you can name it as fear, you can begin to make a different choice. Not always. Not perfectly. But sometimes. And sometimes is where change begins. The second step, and perhaps the harder one, is tolerating the discomfort of staying. Letting someone see you when you are uncertain. Accepting care without immediately deflecting it. Allowing a conversation to go somewhere emotionally real without steering it back to safety. None of this comes naturally at first. It feels exposed. It feels dangerous in a way that is difficult to articulate, because the danger isn't real, it's a ghost from another time, another relationship, another version of your life when vulnerability genuinely did lead to pain. Your nervous system doesn't know the difference yet between then and now. Part of healing is gently, repeatedly showing it that now is different. Therapy, particularly attachment-focused therapy or somatic work, can be profoundly helpful here. Not because something is wrong with you, but because these patterns were formed in relationship, and they heal most deeply in relationship. A therapeutic relationship is often the first place someone with avoidant patterns experiences what it actually feels like to be consistently seen, consistently not abandoned, consistently met with steadiness rather than rejection. That experience, repeated over time, begins to rewrite the story the nervous system has been telling. And if you are someone who loves a person who pushes you away, this matters for you too. Their withdrawal is not a verdict on your worth. It is not evidence that you are unlovable or that the connection isn't real. It is a wound expressing itself the only way it knows how. That doesn't mean you should accept mistreatment or endlessly chase someone who cannot meet you. But it does mean that sometimes, the most loving thing you can offer, alongside your own firm boundaries, is patience, consistency, and the quiet, steady message that you are not going to disappear. At the heart of all of this is a profound human paradox, that the thing we need most, genuine, safe connection, is often the thing that feels most threatening to us. And the people who push hardest against closeness are frequently the people who are longing for it most deeply. If that is you, know this: the wall you built was not a mistake. It kept you safe when you needed to be safe. But you are not that child anymore. You get to decide, now, what you let in. And choosing, slowly and imperfectly, to let someone stay, that is not weakness. That is one of the bravest things a human being can do.